So many people may ask, what is the difference between a cornet, as you see here, and a trumpet, as you see here? Well, it's a very important difference, or list of differences. I'll show you what they are. So first off, the differences are mainly just visual, how the instrument is wrapped. The trumpet has a straight line that comes straight around right into the third valve. Of course, into the third, second, and first, and then out to the bell section. But the cornet, on the other hand, you go through here, and you loop around, and instead of coming down into here, instead of being long and coming around, it's shorter, it comes around again. This is your main tuning slide here, and it comes around into here, which is also in the third valve. Some cornets will come around into the third valve first, but this is your standard. Anyway, then it goes around in all of your valves, depending on which one you press down, and then it comes out here where the bell section starts. Some cornets, a lot of cornets actually, will have a section called a shepherd's crook, to where instead of it coming straight out, it comes out and comes down and comes around. I might put an image of that up. And the main reason that the cornet is wrapped differently, which there's other reasonings that contribute to it, but it's that the cornet is trying to be as open as possible. It's not it's trying to reduce sharper curves. The trumpet has one big sharp curve here, but this one is a really wide general turn, and then it gets down farther into the instrument. There's a smaller turn. It tries to make it, instead of like this, spreads it out, which is also the purpose of the shepherd's crook. Instead of having a sharp turn right there, it comes out there to have a more gradual turn around. The bell on this trumpet is just slightly bigger than this one, just by a couple millimeters or so. Typically, this one would have the third valve ring thing, but did not have it when I purchased it. And this one has a thumb saddle for the first valve. This trumpet does not, but it does have the third valve one, which means either way you can tune the low D, because you could just pull out first instead of third. But the next difference that people may notice is mouthpiece. Here's a little comparison of a trumpet and a cornet mouthpiece side by side. The first thing you'll notice is that obviously one is a lot taller than the other. Scooch that out of the way. And that's mainly due to the overall size of the mouthpiece, which is important. And if I show you, these are two different shank sizes. You can see there, this is cornet, this is trumpet. Cornet has a lot smaller shank size because in the cornet, the tubing is mainly conical. Conical being like a cone. Think of a traffic cone. It starts off narrow at one end and it gets wider at the other. Well, that's how the tubing within a cornet works for most of it, or a decent proportion of it. It starts off narrower, and remind you that standardly a cornet, I love these words, the standard is a cornet B flat, same as a trumpet, same pitch, but the cornet starts off a lot thinner tubing and gradually gets wider and wider all the way up into the bell section. A trumpet, on the other hand, is almost entirely cylindrical. Think of what a cylinder is. The trumpet's bore on the inside stays the same throughout the entire instrument until you get to the bell section, where of course it gets bigger. This instrument is a Yamaha 11C4, which is their magical language for just a 7C. They've got that marked on this one. They don't always do that. and this is a Vincent Bach 10.5C, which is a big mouthpiece. That's not really important. This 7C, playing on this, if you have the Yamaha equivalent to this mouthpiece on a trumpet, it will feel exactly the same, minus, you know, the thing that involves the instrument being on the other end. But this, to give you a better comparison, here's a French horn mouthpiece. Of course, the French horn has the smallest bore out of any brass instrument. Can fit inside a trumpet mouthpiece, as a lot of people will point out, but it can't quite fit into a cornet mouthpiece. But the cornet mouthpiece can't quite fit into a trumpet mouthpiece. It's that in-between size of French horn and trumpet. Alright, up until now, you may be wondering, well, what does any of this matter? Sure, they're different sizes and they look different and they're wrapped different, but they're both in the key of B flat, right? And they sound really similar. Well, the difference in how they play is one of the most important things. You can have an instrument that looks completely stupid, and as long as it sounds good, then it sounds good. In the cornet, now that you know that it has conical tubing, the conical tubing allows for a more soft tone, while cylindrical tubing allows for a more brassy tone. This is a more pinpoint, soft, gentle, ti-ta-ta kind of sound, while this is more of a dot-dot kind of brighter, direct purpose. That's why in a lot of music you'll see separate parts written for cornet and for trumpet, because they're both very different instruments and should be used very differently. A lot of times, directors and schools and whatnot will see a cornet part and just have their trumpet players do it, which is, there's inherently nothing wrong with that. But if you want to really go for the full immersion, get your trumpet players on cornet. It's not hard to transfer over. Same fingerings, almost the exact same mouthpiece. The only thing that they would have to learn is just get used to playing the new instrument. It would just be like getting a new trumpet. So, this, if you want a brassy sound, this, if you want a softer sound. If you're writing a brass quartet, it's supposed to be slow, more lyrical. So, don't use the trumpet for that. No. If you want a trumpet sound, that's fine, but the cornet will give you something that's far more soft. So, what did we learn today? Well, if you're paying attention, you learned that this is used for a lot different of a purpose than this is used for. Maybe I hopefully would understand that you come out of this video with a newfound respect for the cornet as something that isn't just a different sounding trumpet. A lot of people even say the cornet is in the trumpet family, but I wouldn't go as far as to call it that. I would call it the B-flat soprano family, because also in that B-flat soprano range you have a flugelhorn, which I don't have one to show you, but a flugelhorn is also in the key of B-flat, but the flugelhorn is even more different than the cornet compared to a trumpet. The point is that just because it can take a similar mouthpiece and same pitch, it does not make it the same instrument.